guys, welcome back to my channel At Home with Beth, where I post video tutorials every week on anything from cooking and baking with food allergies to crafting and woodworking. So be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything. So today we're going to get started making some pepperoni rolls. If you are not familiar with pepperoni rolls, definitely give this a try. They're delicious. Kids love them, adults love them. They're great for lunch boxes. A little backstory on pepperoni rolls is they actually originated in West Virginia coal mines because the miners' wives were able to make them and put them in the lunch pails, and they didn't need to be refrigerated, so they stayed good all day through the workday. And they are a huge staple in West Virginia, and they've definitely trickled down the East Coast since then. So they are made with my basic bread recipe that I have previous tutorial. So make sure that you check that out if you don't have the basic bread recipe down yet. Go ahead and check that tutorial out first. I already have the dough ready to go here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started rolling these out and showing you how we're going to make these pepperoni rolls. So we're going to go ahead and get started rolling this out. Whenever you do that, I just pull off little bits and pieces to make a ball about that big. You can make it, if you want all of these uniform, you can actually roll your big dough out and divide it into 2 sections, and then divide those into 2 sections and 2 more sections, and keep going until you use up all your dough if you want them to look perfect. I like the more authentic look that I remember from when I was a kid, so so I just kind of pull off little bits and pieces. And I use a little bit of flour whenever I'm rolling this out because you don't want them to stick. You want them to be easily moved off the sheet, because whenever you move them to the baking sheet, you really don't want them to lose their shape at all. So we're going to start it off with just looking kind of like that, just like plop it in the middle there. And we're going to roll our roller on it. And we want this to be a rectangular shape. So just kind of keep flipping it over, and you want to rule out any air bubbles that are in there as well. So if you catch any of those, make sure you get them rolled out. So again, we want this to be kind of rectangular. Sometimes they turn out a little bit more round than rectangular, and that's okay too. I'm not too picky on how mine look at the end, just more about how they taste. So I'm going to be using Hormel pepperoni. I'm not gonna lie, these definitely taste better if you use deli pepperoni, but as I've said before, we deal with some food allergies in our family, so with egg and dairy allergies, it's hard to get anything from the deli that isn't cross-contaminated from the tools and the handling in the delis. So if you could get your hands on some deli pepperoni or some boar's head, that would be great if you don't deal with the food allergies. If you do have egg and dairy food allergies and you didn't know, Hormel pepperoni, the original, is safe and good to go. So we actually just lay that out in the middle of the bread, and I usually do about 6 to 8. My kids don't like them to be real full, so if you really want a lot of pepperoni in there, the more the better, but my kids like them to be a little less pepperoni. So again, I usually do about 6 or 8 slices. I fold the top down first, and then you're going to take your middle in, and you're going to bring in your other end, and then bring up the bottom. And then you just want to kind of seal that all together. Whenever those go in the oven, you don't want them to open back up. So you just want to seal it together, and it's going to look pretty flat, but remember it's going to rise again in the oven, just like our basic bread recipe does. This is going to go in the oven on a bread sheet, and it's going to rise at a low degree oven, and then we're going to kick it up to a 350 oven to finish it off. So they will look very flat, but just remember that they will rise up whenever we do the second rise in the oven. So you're just going to take these and you're going to keep going, and you're going to get quite a few with this because this bread recipe makes quite a few. The good thing about these, like I've stated in the beginning of the video, these don't have to be refrigerated. So these will stay great on your counter. You don't need to find a spot in your fridge. They'll stay longer if you put them in a leftover dish with a airtight seal. They usually stay fresh. I mean, the first day is amazing. First day is the best day. And then they usually stay pretty good for about 3 days after that, I would say. They'll stay good for a week, but they'll definitely get crumblier as the week goes by. So 3 days is usually where the max is that they're gonna taste fresh. They're still going to be good, as in they won't have mold or anything like that after a week. But again, they'll be a little bit harder, a little bit crumblier, not as soft. So definitely eat them up or freeze them. They freeze nicely too. I've frozen them before for lunches. So they freeze nicely and then they just defrost throughout the day. So that's a good option as well. So go ahead and keep making those. And whenever we're done with this whole batch here, we will get those in the oven at a 175 and let them rise up again in a warm oven for about 20 minutes. And then after that, we're gonna kick it up to 350 and let it finish off for about another 20 minutes, 25, just depending on how brown you like them. I don't like them too brown because they tend to not be as soft for long. So they don't usually, if you cook them to be golden brown on the top, they don't always last the 3 days that I was talking about, and I like them to last as long as I can. So I tend to keep them pretty much, the tops of them are just starting to get browned, but nothing that's a golden brown color. So let's finish these and get them in the oven, and let's take a look at our finished product. Okay, so these started off in the oven at 175 and they rose to about double their size. As you can see, they're definitely a lot puffier than they were whenever they went in. So they about doubled in size, and then once they did that, I went ahead and kicked the oven up to 350 and they cooked for about 25 minutes after that. Again, I like mine to just start to get golden brown on the top, not too cooked, so that the dough is still nice and soft in the center. You could do pretty much anything with these. I just put pepperoni in mine because we do have the dairy allergy, but you can add cheese inside. I used to make them that way before we had the allergy. And there's a couple of different other things you can add in there too, different kinds of cheeses. Pepper jack is a good one, or you can just keep it basic pepperoni. So it's really up to you. And again, they stay good on the counter. You don't have to put these in the refrigerator. And they're really good for car rides or sporting events since they don't have to be refrigerated. So keep that in mind too. They are egg and dairy free, as well as a couple other allergies that you could leave out by just adapting the recipe just slightly. So thanks again for watching our tutorial on how to make the pepperoni rolls using our basic bread recipe. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss our next tutorial. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.